I should have known something was wrong when I saw Patricia Hendris, our HOA president, dragging her 84-year-old mother into the bottle drop recycling center at 7 o'clock in the morning. The way she gripped the elderly woman's arm while balancing 3 oversized trash bags should have been my first warning sign, but nothing, and I mean nothing, could have prepared me for what happened next. Patricia's voice cut through the fluorescent hum of the recycling center like a rusty chainsaw. "You know that's for sorted cans only, Mother," she shrieked, loud enough that everyone in line turned to stare. "The express kiosk is for people who actually understand the system. You're contaminating the entire algorithm with your incompetence." She actually slapped a ginger ale can into her mother's trembling hands. "Now take your bags and use the slow machine like you're supposed to." The poor woman looked like she might cry. "Patricia, dear, I'm just trying to help you with your bottles," she said in a voice barely above a whisper. "You said if I helped, you'd let me see the grandchildren this weekend." That's when I realized this wasn't the first time Patricia had done this. And knowing what I knew about her reign of terror as HOA president, I decided right then and there that it would be the last. My name is Daniel Morrison, and I'm a 58-year-old retired engineer who moved to Maple Ridge Estates 3 years ago. I came here looking for peace and quiet, a place to grow my tomatoes, and maybe build a workshop in my garage. What I got instead was Patricia Hendris, self-appointed guardian of property values and destroyer of suburban tranquility. Patricia lived 4 houses down from me in a beige McMansion that looked exactly like every other beige McMansion on our street, except hers had 17 security cameras and a sign that read HOA President Parking Only. She was a former pharmaceutical sales rep who discovered that terrorizing neighbors was more fulfilling than pushing pills. Her husband, a quiet man named Gerald, spent most of his time hiding in the garage or mysteriously being called away on business trips whenever Patricia got particularly intense. My troubles with Patricia started innocently enough. I'd installed a small greenhouse in my backyard, completely within code and HOA guidelines. But Patricia decided it was creating what she called inappropriate light refraction that could potentially disturb the aesthetic harmony of our community. She sent me 14 emails about it in a single day, each one CC'd to the entire HOA board and half the neighborhood. Then came the inspection visits. Patricia would show up unannounced with her clipboard and measuring tape, documenting every blade of grass that exceeded the 2.5-inch maximum height mandate. She once spent 45 minutes photographing my mailbox from different angles, claiming it was leaning 1 degree off its vertical axis. She filed a formal complaint about my bird feeder attracting undesirable wildlife, which turned out to be 2 cardinals and a blue jay. The woman had a gift for finding violations where none existed. She cited me for excessive dandelion proliferation, unauthorized butterfly attraction, and my personal favorite, creating a microclimate that encouraged non-approved insect species. I'm not making this up. She actually hired an entomologist to identify the bugs in my garden, then cross-referenced them with some list she'd found online of HOA-approved arthropods. But I kept my cool. I responded to every citation with documentation, every complaint with calm reasoning. I thought if I just played by the rules, she'd eventually leave me alone. That was before I discovered what she was really up to at the bottle drop. It started when I noticed Patricia's Thursday morning routine. Every week, like clockwork, she'd load up her Lexus SUV with bags and bags of bottles and cans. Now, Oregon has a bottle return law where you get 10 cents back for every container, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the sheer volume Patricia was hauling raised questions. We're talking 15 to 20 bags week after week. Where was she getting all these bottles? My suspicions grew when I saw her at the grocery store buying cases and cases of bottled water, which seemed odd since I knew she had a top-of-the-line water filtration system. She'd installed it the previous year and made sure everyone knew about it through a 30-minute presentation at the HOA meeting about the dangers of municipal water. So that Thursday morning at the bottle drop, I decided to follow her. I parked across the street with a clear view of the entrance. What I witnessed still makes my blood boil. Patricia didn't just make her mother use the slow machine, she had an entire system worked out. Her mother would stand at the slow sorting machine, feeding bottles one by one, while Patricia used multiple express kiosks with pre-sorted bags. But here's the thing about the bottle drop rules: each person is limited to 15 bags per day. Patricia was using her mother as a mule to double her daily limit. The elderly woman was struggling with the machine, her arthritis clearly making it difficult to feed the bottles. "Patricia, these bags are so heavy," her mother said with obvious pain in her voice. "Can't we do fewer today? My hands are really hurting." Patricia's response was vicious. "Oh, your hands hurt? How do you think I feel having to manage this entire neighborhood while you sit around watching your stories all day? The least you can do is help me with this simple task. Now stop complaining and keep feeding those bottles. We have 12 more bags to go." But Patricia wasn't satisfied with just verbal abuse. When her mother accidentally dropped a bag, spilling cans across the floor, Patricia completely lost it. "You incompetent old fool," she screamed, her face turning purple with rage. "Do you have any idea how much money you just cost me? Those were pre-sorted aluminum cans worth $12.60. She grabbed her mother's shoulders and shook her. "This is why I can't trust you with anything important. You're useless. Absolutely useless." The other people in line were frozen in shock. A young mother covered her child's ears. An elderly man in a veteran's cap stepped forward like he was going to intervene, but Patricia whirled on him with such fury that he stepped back. "Mind your own business," she snarled. "This is a private family matter." That's when her mother did something unexpected. She stood up straight, looked Patricia dead in the eye, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "You're stealing from the HOA fund to buy these bottles, aren't you? That's why you needed my help to make it look legitimate." The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia's face went from purple to white in about 2 seconds. Her mother continued with a shaky but determined voice. $300 a week from the HOA discretionary fund for emergency supplies, but it all goes to bottles. I've seen the receipts, Patricia. I may be old, but I'm not stupid. Patricia grabbed her mother's arm hard enough to leave marks. "We're leaving," she hissed, but her mother pulled away and actually sat down on the floor. "No," she said firmly. "I'm done being your accomplice. I'm done with all of it." The bottle drop manager, a young man named Tyler, had already called the police, but I was way ahead of him. I'd been recording everything on my phone from the moment Patricia started screaming. Every word, every shake, every admission of embezzlement was captured in crystal clear video. When the police arrived, Patricia tried to play the victim. She claimed her mother was confused, possibly suffering from dementia. She even tried to convince the officers that I was stalking her, that this was all part of my campaign to undermine her HOA authority. But the other witnesses backed up what I'd recorded, and her mother, brave woman that she was, told the officers everything. The investigation that followed was thorough and devastating for Patricia. The forensic accountant the DA's office brought in found that Patricia had embezzled over $30,000 from the HOA over the past 2 years. She'd been using the emergency fund, the landscaping budget, and even the snow removal reserves to fund her bottle-buying scheme. She'd then returned the bottles for cash, which she never reported or returned to the HOA accounts. But the embezzlement was just the tip of the iceberg. They also charged her with elder abuse, fraud, and filing false police reports because it turned out she called the cops on me 17 times for violations that didn't exist. Each false report was a misdemeanor, and 17 misdemeanors add up fast. The emergency HOA meeting to remove Patricia from the board was standing room only. I presented my video evidence, the police reports, and the forensic accounting findings. The vote was unanimous, 73-0. Even Gerald didn't show up to support his wife. He was too busy filing for divorce. Patricia tried to speak in her own defense, but every time she opened her mouth, someone would shout out another one of her ridiculous violations she'd issued over the years. "Remember when you fined the Johnsons for having the wrong shade of beige on their shutters? Or when you tried to ban children from playing in their own front yards. Or my personal favorite, when you measured everyone's Christmas decorations with a ruler to ensure they didn't exceed the approved dimensions. The judge at her criminal trial was not amused by Patricia's attempts to justify her actions. She tried to argue that she was protecting property values, that her strict enforcement of rules was for the greater good of the community. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Honorable Janet Crawford, cut her off mid-sentence. Ms. Hendris, Judge Crawford said sternly, you used your position of authority to terrorize your neighbors, embezzle funds, and abuse your own elderly mother. You turned what should be a collaborative community organization into your personal dictatorship. The fact that you show no remorse and continue to justify your actions as being for the greater good demonstrates a complete lack of understanding of the harm you've caused. Patricia was convicted on all charges. The embezzlement alone carried a maximum of 5 years, but with the elder abuse and multiple counts of filing false reports, she was looking at serious time. The judge sentenced her to 3 years in state prison, 5 years probation, and ordered her to pay full restitution of $42,000, which included interest and penalties. She was also barred from ever serving on any HOA board in the state of Oregon and had to complete 500 hours of community service at, ironically, a recycling center. When the judge read the sentence, Patricia's legs gave out. She had to be helped to a chair by the bailiff. 3 years, she kept repeating in disbelief, but I was just trying to maintain standards. I was protecting our property values. The judge's response was ice cold. No, Ms. Hendris, you were a bully with a clipboard. Deputies, please take her into custody. Patricia's shriek of, but I'm the HOA president, echoed through the courtroom as they led her away in handcuffs.